Let's get the show on the road. Welcome, everybody, to the Michigan Football at the Voice of College Football channel. My name is Desmond. I'm one of the co-hosts for the post-game show. I am here with Mark Rogers, the man, the myth, the legend. While you are here, please like and subscribe. And as you guys jump in, please give us a thumbs up. An unofficial announcement is the Michigan channel. We are now top 3 as far as the team channels under Mark Rogers' channel. So we just crept over the Clemson channel. So we are now number 3 behind, I think, Ohio State and Miami.
Somebody is keeping track.
Yes, I am keeping track. Very competitive. So
Nice.
All my Michigan fans, share this out on social media, Twitter, Facebook, text your friends, definitely join, have them subscribe. They don't even have to tune in every week. We're just driving for that number. So we want to try to get either 1 or 2 and, just keep this thing growing. So go ahead, Mark.
You took down Oklahoma. You're now telling me you've taken down Clemson. And, man, wouldn't it be something to take down Ohio State? Because
that would be
Ohio State.
That'd be perfect. Maybe we should make that a challenge for the channel to, by the time we get to the Ohio State game, to have more subscribers than the Ohio State channel. I want to say we're about 1,300 subscribers away. So we're looking at what, 4 weeks, something like that, 3-4 weeks. So we'd need, what is that, math? Let's call it 400 a week. So we've got some work to do. So I'll be busy on the Twitter sphere and sharing out the channel to make sure we get there.
Well, number one, you're assuming that the Ohio State channel will not be gaining any subs, which I'm rooting against that, of course.
That is true.
Secondly, you've put me in an awkward position here. This is the first time I've had issues trying to select my pronouns. Like I'm referring to. I didn't know how to state this channel versus that channel. Is typically I'm talking and I say we this and we that, and suddenly it's them and we. No, it's they're all mine. So I'm not rooting for anyone. I'm just rooting for all of them.
Right. You're like the dad over the siblings. Like, well, I love them all equally. They're all beautiful. They're all wonderful. No favorites. So, but no, it's exciting. It's for me, something I text our co-host Dre all the time of like, hey man, we're so close to the Clemson channel. So it's funny because I think 2 days ago on Monday I checked and I think we were like neck and neck. I think they had us by like maybe 20 subscribers. So just a little friendly competition that I don't tell them about. It's just the competition in my mind that I'm having with them. So it's a game that's being played that only one person knows that the game is being played. So that's actually how my daughter likes to, we'll do random stuff. She'll like to race, but she doesn't tell me that we're racing. She'll just take off running and then, I win. So, it's one of those things, but it's, something good just to focus on, growing the channel and just spreading the word. So
it's nice to make the rules. to be the one to make the rules. But we've been doing this show for 9 weeks, and Desmond does an amazing job, he and Dre, with Michigan postgame after every Wolverine game. So please join them after Michigan Penn State. That should be a good one. And again, we've done this now 9 weeks, our Wednesday show with all of you. So this is fairly new, and it's taking off. Thanks to Des, thanks to Dre, and thanks to all of you.
It's been fun. We've seen, I don't want to call it a roller coaster because overall Michigan's been a pretty consistent team overall when it comes to performance. Like they've played well. I think even in the Michigan State game, you can look at, long stretches of football where they did play well. I mean, at one point they had a 30-14 lead in that game. Obviously Michigan State came back after that, but Michigan's been a pretty consistent team. They've come out with good energy. They've come out with good focus. You can't really look at any games where they were undisciplined and had a lot of penalties. Like they've been a really well coached team. You know, I think with every team outside, well, really every team has flaws. Even the juggernaut that is Georgia football right now. With, you know, I would argue that their passing game is with Stetson Bennett isn't one that's probably going to win you a national championship, but when you're holding teams to like an average of 2 points a game, you know, it doesn't take much offense to you know, to win those games. So, you know, and Michigan has their flaws as well, with a just consistent, you know, pass game. Obviously, the Michigan State game, it you know, over 300 yards, passing close to 400, and you know, some really big plays, some explosive plays in the pass game. And I'm sure that Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan faithful would like to have some pretty explosive plays this Saturday too with Penn State.
It's funny how the college football season unfolds and what the interpretation of each game is versus you don't see this in the NFL. It's pretty much a given. Okay, the competition's the same. Everything's good. There might be a conversation every so often that, oh, they got an easy stretch here. They've got a brutal stretch, but pretty much just shakes out at the end that everybody's got roughly the same schedule. But with college football, you know, we're still in that kind of chasing your tail, trying to figure out, okay, well, they beat them. Man, we thought they were good. How good are they really? Who did they beat? You know, and we take it like 3-4 degrees out, and that comes to mind considering what Cade McNamara did a couple of weeks ago against Michigan State. Even though that was a loss, we all saw what Cade did against what we thought was a good defense, and I still think it's a good defense, and certainly not a great defense, but a good defense that he was pinpoint on, anticipating throws, making difficult throws, doing all the things we talked about. But then we see Michigan State turn around and Aiden O'Connell of Purdue torches them for 536 yards. Now, 536 spot, that comes in different ways. There's a 536 that sometimes you see out of desperation that includes 4 picks and you're down 3 scores the entire second half. That wasn't the 536. That was an efficient 40 for 54. No picks, no turnovers. You're putting up 54 times. You're not turning the ball over at all. Putting up 536 and 40 points on Michigan State. That's pretty impressive.
And just big play after big play. I just watching that game, and you know, David Bell, that receiver is just unreal. That's a guy who he just a different level. But yeah, the just the offense for Purdue, it just explosive, putting up points. I mean, 40 points. I'm not sure anyone would have called that from Purdue on you know, Michigan State. I know some people were calling pretty early on too an upset of Michigan State, you know, losing to Purdue, but I don't think anyone thought it would look the way that it did. But it's so interesting when you look at Purdue of how it is they can beat these top, you know, 2-3 ranked teams, but just when it comes to week in and week out, they just cannot seem to kind of get it together and have that consistency. They're just, you know, they seem to be a program that is just set on upsetting and ruining people's seasons. It's interesting, but I mean, if you look at that performance they had against Michigan State, if Purdue played that way the entire season, I mean, you're probably looking at maybe a 1-loss team, but you know, but they don't play like that all the time. And I think kind of back to your point of NFL, you don't see it, you know, a lot of just the kind of roller coaster. I think a lot of that is you have guys who have been there before, like, you know, Lamar Jackson is in his 4th or going on 5th year. So, you know, kind of what you can expect from him consistency wise and, you know, just different things like that. But it's, it's interesting, but, you know, Purdue is, you know, they win over Michigan State. That throws a huge wrench into, you know, the Big Ten East Division. And you know, all the teams are sitting at 1 loss. Ohio State does not have any losses in the division or in the conference, but they still have to play Michigan State. They still have to play Michigan. So it's interesting. And then, you know, the college football rankings just came out, and I know Marky had a call-in show last night to go over the rankings, and I'm sure Michigan fans are pretty elated. And yeah, from what I've seen on Twitter, happy to tease, Michigan State that they are now ranked higher than Michigan State is. And, after just a couple of weeks of losing to them not too long ago. But I mean, to me, I get both sides of it. Like, I get the premise of, well, Michigan State beat Michigan, but also, I mean, we can, whether it's right or wrong, I mean, we've seen it before from the committee on when you lose does matter as well. So, Michigan had their loss 2 weeks ago, and, and Michigan State had theirs just this past Saturday. So we talked about it before we kind of kicked things off today, kind of backstage of just, the formula for everybody except Georgia is to win out. Like, if you want to get to in the college football playoff, it's very simple: win out. And I'd say except for Georgia, because I think they can still take a loss and still be able to get into the college football playoff because they've looked so dominant. So it's interesting. Michigan is number 6, I believe, in the college football rankings, and that means they're pretty darn close to getting in. So we'll Saturday will be huge when it comes to the college football playoff, and when it comes to just the Big Ten race. Like, they need to this will be huge. I think Michigan going to Penn State, taking care of business, and being able to pull out a win would be huge for them. Would be huge.
So whatever you guys want to chat about regarding Michigan football, the game against Indiana last week, which probably at this point everybody's kind of put to rest. But if you do have any comments or questions to make about the 29-7 win over Indiana, but of course Penn State's coming up on Saturday, college football rankings again, Michigan stays ahead of Michigan State or leapfrogs Michigan State because of the Spartans' loss against Purdue. One quick note on Purdue, just one other thing on Purdue. Yeah, this is a thing where most of the time, if somebody brings up some type of statistical trend or something, where such and such performs great on the second week of October on odd years, those kind of crazy things, I'm typically like, when they bring up, trends between teams or series history that goes back a certain distance, I'm like, these are different coaching staffs, different players, different complete programs. Don't bring up 2005 to me or whatever. It has nothing to do with what's going on today. I'm starting to wonder about this Purdue thing, because this is happening now, and this is their history. They have by far the most wins as a unranked team. So let's premise this, a school like Michigan, Ohio State, they're almost always ranked. So they can't do this, but as an unranked team beating top 5 teams, it's like nobody's even close to their number of wins against top 5 teams. It's just funny.
Like you said, it's one of those things where it doesn't really correlate from 2021. I mean, these kids who are playing in this game now were infants and toddlers, in 2005. Like, what does that matter? But it just and I think it's one of the difficult things about college football is having 18 to 22-year-old young men or guys, kids, whatever you want to call it, of continuously being focused to where they can week in and week out not overlook they're not overlooking their opponents. They're making sure that they're focused. They're executing at a high level, because it's so easy to do. I'm sure at Michigan State and East Lansing that, they had people all over telling them how great they were, how, man, you guys are going to win it all, and, just patting you on the back. And it's easy to fall into that comfort of, man, like this, this is pretty cool. Like, yeah, we could just kind of roll out of bed and things will be just fine. And that's why, for myself, why I think it's so impressive for, the guys like Nick Saban and, Dabo Swinney before this year to consistently have guys play at that level to where they're dominant, where they play well, where they're focused, where they're executing, and also winning. Like, it's a really difficult thing to do to keep young men focused on the task at hand. I think for the NFL, different because these guys are getting paid a lot of money to do it, and they're professionals. Like it's a clock in, clock out thing. The only thing I have to focus on is NFL football. With college, you've got classes, you've got, just different things that you need to worry about outside of just the football game on Saturday. So there's a lot that goes into it, but I think it shows why coaches that are consistently having guys perform at the highest level, why it is so impressive, because it's so difficult to do. It's so difficult to do. But they guys just keep rolling. They keep doing it.
Hey, Ronan, it's good to see you. So Ronan's a Miami fan.
Okay.
Been a supporter for quite some time. He's checking out our Michigan show tonight. So Ronan, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the super chat. We appreciate that. Hopefully this will help Harbaugh buy a win in a big game. Jokes aside, I'm pulling for a change in the Big Ten. Go Canes. So, yeah, if you're not rooting for Ohio State, you're probably rooting against Ohio State. If you root for anybody else, just to say, let's see some change. Just like Clemson right now. I think it's a breath of fresh air that now they're not mathematically eliminated, but it's not looking good for them. That just different teams will play in the ACC championship game. I'm good with that. Kind of look forward to that. A fresh scene there. So, Des, based on your previous comment about these rankings coming up, you're not uptight about it, nor do you think Michigan fans should be uptight in any such way. You think, okay, Georgia can lose. I agree. Everybody else that's in contention, they win out, they're in.
For the most part, yeah. I mean, I would venture out. I think Texas A&M is like is number 14 or something like that.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I'm talking about, yeah.
But yeah, as far, our top
one loss teams.
Really 8, top 8 teams. I think from Oklahoma on up, all those teams win. The teams that do win out, I think they'll be in. I think Cincinnati is in there as well, just due to, the Michigan State, Ohio State kind of clump, if you will, that's all kind of lumped together. Now, of course, there's going to be differences. Like, for instance, if Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, and Ohio State, if all of those teams win out, then obviously that would mean like Michigan State don't. But if those teams win out, then I think, our Cincinnati's probably going to be left out. But then too, if Oklahoma wins out, that's going to be a decision that's got to be made as well too. Like what's going to happen there. So it'll be interesting, but I ultimately think that things are going to work themselves out. Because, like I said, you got Ohio State, Michigan, you got Michigan State and Ohio State that have to play. So I think I just overall think things are going to work themselves out. And even as an Alabama fan, I'm pretty concerned with playing Georgia in Atlanta. Not, full transparency. I think if JT Daniels is not the starter, I feel a lot better about that game. But if he is, he's shown the ability to put up 400 yards and passing, and that along with that run game will be pretty tough to deal with, along with that defense. But yeah, so to get back to your original point, yeah, I really don't think Michigan fans should be, too up in arms about it. Take care of Penn State this week. You've got Maryland the week after that, and then you got Ohio State. So you take care of business, you're going to be exactly where you want to be.
So, Des, I rarely disagree with you, but I am in the camp that things rarely work out. That is, you just made the statement, and I called out one of our Ohio State guys on our Ohio State show today. I said the same thing to Steve Hellwagon. I said, Steve, you just said the phrase that drives me nuts around this time of year, that everything's going to work itself out.
Well,
I said it's kind of like, I liken it to, let's say I got $50,000 of credit card debt, and I've got a stack of bills from the credit card companies, and I don't have the money to pay them. It's going to work itself out. Something's going to happen. Sure. They're going to, haul me off to jail. Did that work itself out? So there's going to be a conclusion. I agree with that. There will be a conclusion. The 13 people in that committee will have to make a decision the day after. Does that mean it worked? I only think that there's one year that it worked itself out. 2019, that was the Ohio State, Clemson, LSU were all undefeated.
Yep.
Oklahoma had 1 loss as a conference champ, and nobody else really had a legit claim.
Correct.
Even though you should like me for this, Des, I truly believe Alabama was one of the 4 best teams in the country, but they didn't earn it. So Oklahoma won a conference championship. They only had 1 loss. They were the team to select.
Yep.
That's the only year that I don't think that there were teams outside the top 4 that had a claim to say, hey, we've got just as good a resume as one of the teams that was selected.
Yeah. What do you think now? Granted that, not a normal year by any stretch. What do you think about last year? Because we had undefeated Bama was 1. They played Notre Dame, who was 4, and then Ohio State, Clemson was 2-3.
So Texas A&M, same record as Notre Dame, didn't win a conference. Notre Dame didn't win a conference. Why does Notre Dame get to go and Texas A&M does not?
That's true, because Clemson won. That's right. I guess you're right.
And we can continue. Cincinnati was undefeated. Why didn't Cincinnati go?
And I think the toughest part for me is when I think about, and it's funny that we're talking about this, because I was just looking at on YouTube Joel Klatt and Colin Cowherd, and they were talking about kind of the expansion and so on and so forth, and on some point I do get the expansion, but the thing that I think about the most with the current scenario that we have now in the 4 teams is that 1-4 matchup is rarely a good football game. Like, so in my whole premise is I'm not even sure that there's truly 4 that are good enough. Like, usually it's a big 3, and then it's kind of everyone else kind of in that 4 to 8 range of like kind of jockeying for that last spot. But most times it's that number 1 team. I mean, they may end up losing in the championship. Like, I think we've had the first year Ohio State beat Alabama as the 4-1 matchup. Alabama's done it. They won the 4-1 matchup, but I think that year they lost to Clemson, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But those are the only ones I can remember off the top of my top of the head. But of what 6 years that we've had it, we've had 2 times that a 4-1 matchup has gone to the underdog. So I guess my thing is just I'm not quite sure that we have even 4 that essentially would be worthy. That's good, like just good enough, essentially, that where that number 4 can play with the other 3.
I understand that that viewpoint, and history has shown us just exactly what you stated there. Yeah, 2014, that was a different year. That was the first year, and obviously we had the 4 could certainly play with the other 3. The 4 seed, maybe the 2 or the 3 couldn't, but yeah, other than that, obviously there's been a Michigan State or a Washington or an Oklahoma that couldn't hang with the 1 seed, a Notre Dame last year. But see, that's really not my concern. Like, I don't care how many teams can play that well. And I get that for the sake of viewing competitive football games. I want it. My aim is more to be fair and to provide opportunity for teams that earn it.
I with that premise, I do understand it. I do get it. The tough part for me is the years that we get a 4-loss Pac-12 team of guaranteeing them that person a spot, or even a 3-loss Pac-12 team, because maybe that was a bit unfair. But when it to me, it's clear, like, you've lost to 3 other football teams. Like, I think it's clear you're not one of the best teams to win it. But it also too, I mean, I do understand it. It's expansion's coming no matter what I say, or what we say. It's coming. There's just too much money involved in it, and as much as I don't want it to expand, I do think it is going to have some pretty cool football games that we're going to be able to see after conference championship. So I'm against it, but I'm also for it, because I'm like, because there's nothing I love more than watching some of those pretty, big matchups. Like I had saw like the top 8 teams, like where they stand now, like what those matchups would look like. And it was like, Oklahoma, Georgia, I think it was Ohio State, Cincinnati, like just those matchups would be pretty cool to see. So I'm like, I think part of me is just kind of like old school getting, I'm 35 now and obviously getting older, but another part of me is just like, we're going to see some pretty awesome games around, Christmas time and what what I used to consider bowl season. So I'm not going to be too upset if we expand and get some better football games.
Yeah, I think had we had an expanded playoff during this playoff era, we probably would have landed in the same spot with the same teams at the end. We just would have been gifted with a little more good football and some bad football, a couple blowouts. Sure, there'd be some blowouts. No doubt about that.
True. Yeah.
I'm actually, and I don't want to take this too far off the rails if people want to talk Michigan and hear us talk Michigan, Penn State, but I have all sorts of concoction of 16-team playoffs, and there's a couple different ways to do that, but you can get the group of 5 involved in that, I think, and you can include all 10 conference champions.
That would be, I would like that. And of course, people I'm sure are going to be like, wait, you just said you don't want it to expand, but would like that. But I'm like, look, if you're going to expand it, like, all right, like, and bring them on, include them. The only thing I would want to see is home games, on the actual like campuses. One of the last things that I read was their potential, whoever the committee is talking about the expansion is talking about having the first round games at like bowl locations, which I think is ridiculous. Yes. I'm not with that at ridiculous. All. I'm not with that at all. I'm like, wait, no. I'm like,
for a few different reasons.
Say it again.
I'm sorry, Des. Keep going.
Yeah. So they talked about. Sorry, we got logged out of the laptop in my daughter's Zoom dance class, so I'm gonna be multitasking. But I've seen some things that the committee is talking about expanding, but also like for instance, the first round games wouldn't be on, like, for instance, if Ohio State is the 3 seed, like the first round of the playoff wouldn't be at Ohio State in Columbus. It would be in like Santa Clara, which I think that's like, I'm like, to me, the whole point of expansion is to better the college football experience, mainly for the fans. I mean, I'm sure the players are fine with, not playing more football games, but I'm like, that would be for the fans. Like, how incredible would that be for an Ohio State or a Michigan fan to be able to drive to, Ann Arbor or Columbus, and maybe you don't get tickets to the game, because I can only imagine the ticket prices for that. So, as just a normal guy, I'm probably not going to be able to, to pay for that. But nonetheless, like that to me, that's just that would be just such a cool experience. And those higher seeds, those teams that, I won my conference. Like I went through the gauntlet. Like I deserve to have that.
Yep.
That home field advantage, like that's going to be big. Like to make it, Michigan fans to have to fly to California to play a game in Santa Clara, and then the next week they have to go to, who knows where. Like, I just think they would be missing an opportunity there. But also, to be quite frank, like, I don't think that they're really concerned with, the fan side of it. I think they're, concerned on kind of the dollar side, which is a little unfortunate, but we'll see what happens.
And I think you make a good point, and kind of a different angle on that same point is, if you're a Michigan fan, your team makes the playoff, and you're looking at hopefully making a run to the national championship, and there are 3 games to be played, let's say, and there are no campus games. So the first one's in Arizona. At Tempe, Arizona, or wherever, the Glendale, Arizona. So you're faced with the thought that, let's say I can only make one trip, and do I want to go to the first round game, Or do I want to hope that because basically you're in a no-win situation if you go to the first round game, because either they win and you've played your hand.
You played your hand. Yep.
And you instead of going to the second round game. But if they go and that's the only game, well, they lost and you went to go see them lose, or you go to see them win, and instead of opting to go to the second round game somewhere. And also I think that, so you're how many groups of fans are going to be traveling multiple weeks to these games? It's just the resources involved are just way above most people. And then on top of that, most people that criticize and have an argument against expansion say, well, you're going to water down the season and there's going to be all these games that don't matter because the team's going to have an automatic, or they're going to be in a great position to make the playoffs so they can lose a game late in the season. Let's say Alabama's playing Auburn. Alabama's undefeated. They've locked up the West. They're going to the SEC championship game. You know, the traditionalists could not imagine that Alabama would not put everything on the line to beat Auburn. It's the Iron Bowl. But realistically, how motivated would the players be if they're number one in the country and they know they're going to make the playoffs? So I get that argument. But if you put these games on campus and award conference champions and the highest seeds, well, suddenly, you know, Alabama, do you want to throw this game away? Do you want to travel to Madison, Wisconsin, the first round of the playoffs, or Seattle, Washington, or wherever, and play a first round playoff game? Okay, then
that changes a lot. It changes, you know, it changes everything. But I think it also, in an odd way, keeps it the same, you know, to where the way things are today, like that, you know, Alabama would never rest starters against, you know, at the Iron Bowl, and as they shouldn't. So it just will be interesting on how exactly they format it, because I thought the vote was either a yes or no on a 12-team playoff, which in that, and maybe I'm not looking at the correct formulation of what it looks like, but what I saw was the top either 2 or 4 seeds would get a bye. So seeds 5, 6, 7 would have home games, but then the next round, for instance, let's say, you know, Georgia's number 1, they would get a bye week first, the first round, and then in the number 5 team would host a game. So with number 5 hosting a game, and say they win, the next round, which would be 5 versus 1, they would actually play at a neutral site. So it would be like I thought that part was kind of interesting, like, because of course the number 1 seed's gonna want to bye, but you also probably want to have a home game as well. So it's kind of an interesting thing. I mean, I don't think there's a perfect route to it, but for me, I would love to have, you know, the 1 through 4 be able to host a home game, and maybe if you're you know, maybe the top seeds maybe get a bye and they host a game. You know, maybe that you know, I think that would probably be the ideal route, because then you're rewarding them, you know, but then also almost a double reward.
We want to welcome Dre, of course. Dre Artis is here, as he always is.
Golf extraordinaire,
as well as post game. And I know everybody wants Michigan football talk, so I will not lecture you guys on the evils of bye weeks or byes in the playoffs, but we'll save that topic for another time, and I will let you know why they are the epitome of evil. Byes in college football playoffs should not be. Okay.
I'd be okay if we did not have bye week. So I that would work for me too. I'm flexible. I'm pretty flexible. I of course I've got my where I'd like it to go, but you know, this train can go down many different paths, and I will be happy. I just love football, so it'd be perfect. It'll be good. Well, I guess we probably should talk about Michigan and Penn State. So, Dre, to real quick, to give you a recap, we've been talking about everything except for Michigan, Penn State. We've talked about the college football playoff rankings and how Michigan fans are getting a little laugh at Sparty because they're ranked higher. You know, what expansion should look like for the CFP, why they should, why they shouldn't, all that good stuff. So the Michigan Penn State talk has yet to happen.
Well, I guess thank you for hold on the fort for me. Even though I don't think that was the intention, but yeah, I mean, look, for one, the whole Michigan fans who are doing it, which there are, because I got attacked by my own fan base because I won't throw names out there, but one radio host for Michigan, you know, tweeted out how he thought it was funny, kind of funny that Michigan was ranked higher than MSU, and I'm like, dude, actually, it's not funny, and you make us look really petty and silly by doing so. And I used the words they kicked out what, and you guys would be surprised how many my own fellow Michigan fans came after me because I used the words kicked our what. Like, well, how can you say that we only lost by 4 points or whatever? And it's like, whatever, fine. I'm not going down the hill. We lost. The point is that why are you even taking part in jokes to a team that you had a chance on to beat? Like, it's just stupid. So if there's any concept or any thing I like to divorce myself as a Michigan fan from is definitely any fans start doing that. That's stupid. But no, I mean, look, it's not that big of a deal because in the grand scheme of things, like this weekend, Michigan versus Penn State, these things are going to play out. Someone's going to lose, and I think someone's going to lose twice. It might be Michigan, it might be MSU, it might be Ohio State. As vulnerable as they look right now, I still think they're the best of the three, but you just never know. So this week is going to be huge. It's not a whiteout. That me and you talk all the time, Desmond. So it's not as terrifying, but it's still a ranked game on the road. And we all know Jim Harbaugh's foibles in those situations. So it's just proving ground. That's all this is. It's proving ground, and we're past the point of just hollow hope. I'm just giving you hope just to have hope or trust. No, you gotta prove it to me, man. And much as I want us to win this weekend, how can I go into this game with 100% confidence, knowing the recent history of us in this situation? So, I see people. I know Mark does other media shows with Steve Dace, and there are fans who attack him because they think he's being really negative as a Michigan fan. It's like, and I don't understand fans like this. Like, what do you guys want us to do? Like, it's up to the team in their results to change the narratives, not us as fans to manipulate the narratives for the team, right? So if you guys don't like what we're saying, fans like us who I think are more rational, right up the middle, or maybe I don't know, maybe that's because I'm in that party, but I think we're more rational and up the middle. It's more about you give me and I'll give you what you give me. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, don't be mad at us, be mad at the team, be mad at the coach. And hey, prove us wrong. I would love to be wrong.
Yeah, there's a section of the fan base, and I don't think there's anything wrong with this as long as they acknowledge who they are. That our quarterback's the best quarterback in the country, our coach is the best coach in the country, our defense is the best defense, and you could be 5-7, and we're still saying, we got the best of everything, and everything's great, and we're amazing, and we love our coach, and that's fine if you want to live in that area. But just understand that other people are realistic, and so don't attack them for being realistic.
Right? Yeah.
That's funny.
And just because we're fans, don't mean that we're here to create some kind of hype show. No, we're here to talk about what we see. We're here to talk about reality. And like in a case of, let's say, me being upset with making jokes at MSU because they're one spot ahead of them, like. You guys would be surprised. There's still some Michigan fans who use the word little brother. Little brother. Are you kidding me? This team has beat us 10 out of the last 14 times. What is your problem?
Yeah, but it's just talking smack.
It's funny. It's cute, right? It's cute, right? Yeah. They like, it's just, I don't like, I just like, the calculations in my head, it just don't drive with that. It's like this team has beat us 10 out of the last 14 years. Okay. I can't help you. I can't. Whatever.
Yeah. To me, I think the concern going into this weekend is really the injury bug for Michigan. I mean, they've been it's key positions, it's key spots. Like, for our recent, young star of Andrell Anthony, who, broke out 2 weeks ago, he's banged up. Blake Corum, who, is part of the Thunder and Lightning combo, he's dinged up. You've got guys who are, I think Roman Wilson still playing in a soft cast. Like there's just so many guys that are banged up. And, we talked about it post game last week of just the monster workload that Hassan Haskins, had last week. So it just, to me, that it's getting to that point of the season where, it's an unfortunate part of football. Like guys get injured, guys get banged up. And really, I haven't heard anything. I've kind of been, looking on Twitter to see any updates as far as Corum, any updates on Anthony. I haven't really seen much. It seems that they're keeping things pretty under wraps, which I can understand that 100%. As far as the gamesmanship of Penn State, you don't want them to be ready for anything, right? You want them to have to get ready for everything. So I get that part, but to me, Penn State Penn State to me is somewhat of a reflection of Michigan. Like, I think for both of these teams, if you get down early on either one of these, so if Michigan gets down early, that they're not built to come back, right, down from a early 14-point deficit. I don't think Penn State is either, even though they do have Jahan Dotson, who is an extremely explosive player and can make big plays. I think they want to have the explosive plays kind of in the flow of the offense, similar to Michigan. Like, they want to have that play action, take a deep shot versus, we're just coming out 5 wide and throwing the ball around. So I think both of these teams are built pretty similar. I think I'd probably give, even defensively, I think I think it's pretty close. Like, I think these teams are really similar. And I think that, the team that gets out to a better start, I think you could look at it and be like, that's the team who's probably going to be closer to, to winning this game. So what say you, Dre?
Well, we talked about Franklin versus Harbaugh. I think most years Penn State and Michigan are very, very close. They're really a reflection of each other in terms of programs, not only by head coaches, but in terms of, like you said, in terms of programs, historic in terms of the history of college football, in terms of their success over the last 10 years. The difference is 1 year Penn State's broken through compared to Michigan not breaking through. But this year, they're also very similar. If Sean Clifford doesn't get hurt at Iowa, they probably finish that game off in Iowa, and that changes the whole trajectory of their season. And that's not me making an excuse for Penn State. You have an injury, a reverse call at the end of the second quarter in a game that you still win up 16 is different than your starting quarterback in the middle, I think in the fourth quarter, or actually in the third quarter, going out in the game, right? Like that's a totally different impact, right? And they were up at Iowa, and which is we know Michigan has struggled. They've lost the games at night at Iowa too, and Penn State had that in hand. Penn State they were in it against Ohio State as well. So by all means, they are a formidable opponent. And so I think Saturday really is a toss-up. Like, I just don't see, unless like Sean Clifford is still not healthy, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. And, just having if Blake Corum is out, which looks like he probably is, you're not going to, just run down that Penn State defense as easily as you think you are. And I know they have their struggles with Illinois and that they're not perfect. I'm not saying they are. But that is a defense similar to Michigan that has a lot of NFL players over there. If not right now, eventually. They're talented, 4 or 5 star kids. And, it's going to be tough. But I will say this. There has been a lot of – I think there's the potential of an implosion for Penn State as well, because I do think there's distraction. I do think there's smoke to James Franklin, possibly having a foot off the door. And, with their season essentially – in terms of winning the Big Ten, kind of looking over right now. And who knows if those kids are going to be fully locked in on Saturday. I would anticipate they are, but you never know.
I'm sure they're going to be trying to ruin Michigan's season, because unfortunately, a lost Saturday would do just that. Like everything that, and I think that's the part about college football that I love the most, is that everything is on the line and it can be gone just like that. So if Michigan, like we've talked about it, all the goals are still in front of you, everything that you want to do, and it even more so with Michigan State losing, to Purdue on Saturday. I mean, that's not something that, we saw that. What was before our game, or no? Michigan was. Who did they play last week?
Who?
Indiana. Michigan played Indiana, but with Michigan State losing to Purdue, it's like, man, the door is wide open, and the cool part is it's been a while since we've trended towards this way with Michigan, to where you're getting to that Ohio State game, and it's going to be legitimately, potentially, everything's on the line. A trip to Indianapolis is on the line. Now they got to take care of business, Saturday and next week to Maryland. But it's like that. That's exactly what you wanted when the season first started. Like, granted, obviously you want to be undefeated going into that game and win out, but nonetheless, to have a chance to play Ohio State, and I am jumping the gun a bit, sorry guys, but to potentially have the chance to play Ohio State for a trip to Indy, I mean, if you couldn't write it out any better.
No, you're right. Unfortunately, it's I'm not going to jump the gun too. I was going to say, unfortunately, we know how that story tends to play out, but that's not fair. It's not fair. I need to at least allow.
Well, I think it is fair, though, to be quite frank. I mean, that when you look at Jim Harbaugh's history, like
I know. I'm just, Desmond. I'm leaving a little bit of room of just hope and just natural. You just never know. This could be the year that, hey, maybe look. And in all fairness, too, Ohio State is not a juggernaut this year. I just don't think they are.
We talked about that before the first game of this season. That if there was a year to get Ohio State in the last 7 years, this is legitimately it. This is it, and that doesn't mean that they're not talented. It's just they are not the, just the number two, clearly the number 2 team in the nation, like rolling, with Justin Fields throwing for 40-something touchdowns, or Dwayne Haskins throwing for 50 touchdowns. Like they're just not that, just steamroller that's rolling over everybody.
Want to know a secret? I don't really think anybody in college football is that great this year.
Like Georgia,
and that's pretty much it. We talked about that while golfing one day. We was like, dude, it's pretty much Georgia, and it's pretty much wide open who can win a national title. Mm-hmm. Yes, okay, 30 seconds of a safe place, okay? In theory, because of how wide open it is this year, meaning outside of Georgia, no one, and be very clear, no one is playing great football on all sides of the ball. Michigan with the right boys could win a national title this year. Just saying, like that's how wide open it is. Georgia is undefeated and they really haven't had a bad game. I'm still not a huge believer in Stetson Bennett. Okay, like
Stetson, huh?
Like I'm just saying, like you just never know. So I'm not saying that it's likely that I'm probably will be waking up from a dream and that's probably that situation commence. But whatever. I'm just making a point that I don't really think anybody outside of Georgia has been playing great football consistently this year. So no, it's a great opportunity. It really is.
What's interesting is
go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's something that we don't talk about is that week 1 game, with Clemson and Georgia. Like, it was a great game.
Right,
I think everybody thought that was going to be a potential preview of, maybe a college football, playoff matchup. Turns out Clemson's not that team.
You were right about that. You said, but
that's something. I mean, and granted, in Georgia's case, like for the case for Georgia, like I get it. That was like 7-8 weeks ago. So like I'm not saying that like, oh, Georgia's overrated. No, they're absolutely incredible. But when we initially saw that matchup before the season started, it was like, the winner of this one's like probably giving themselves a shot, and the loser of it, like you're in a lot of trouble trying to get to the college football playoff. And that, the latter part, like for sure is correct, because you take a loss in week 1 out of conference, you're really in some trouble and fighting uphill to, to try to get there. But as far as the Michigan like injuries and issues, so let's say that, let's say Blake Corum and Antrell Anthony are out. I don't know the status even for Donovan Edwards. Like if he's been MIA the last couple of weeks. Like I haven't seen him really at all, but let's say you're going in there with Haskins and Cornelius Johnson. I think even Eric All is banged up. I mean, does this Michigan win need to look a certain way? Like that, we talked about it that, in some previous games that, Michigan's not going to be in a shootout of 45, 50, 55 points, we think. Do you think this Michigan win has to look a certain way, or do you think there's multiple ways they can get this thing done?
Well, we talked about it all season that, what, it may come a quarter, it may come one drive, or it may come one game where Cade McNamara has to win you the game. He has to be the driving force.
So you think he's got to be the driving force you're saying on Saturday?
Absolutely, because I don't think that you have the horses going into this game due to injury to play the way that you want to play. I don't think you're going to be able to run it with Hassan Haskins 25, 30 times, and he's going to have the same effectiveness as he has against Indiana. So I think this is one of those games where it comes down to Cade. I think Cade, and look, that's not saying Cade has to be perfect or out of character, but I think he has to bring a game similar to what he brought to AMSU. If Cade brings the game he brought to MSU, Michigan will have a very good chance to win.
And if Cade brings that game if he brings that, and let's just say for sake of discussion, he brings that the next 4 weeks, you guys are going to be in Indianapolis. If he brings that for the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Pump your brakes. Let's take care of Happy Valley first. But I know
all right. But when we looked at it, like this was one of the games that you penciled in. Like this is going to be a tough game. This is going to be a gotta have it game, and to get to where you wanted to be, you were gonna have to beat Penn State. Like so, that like you said, there's going to be a game to where you need Cade. What's your confidence level on that? Like, are you confident he will be able to get it done and with him being the driving force?
I'm a lot more confident now than I was before the State game, because now I've seen he can do it. Now, my issue, so here's the thing. They were very, very vanilla, I think, on purpose last week because they and that's we knew they would be. That's typical when Harbaugh and Gannon, especially, I'm going to leave Harbaugh. It starts from the top. When Harbaugh knows he has a clear strategic advantage with running the football against an opponent, he's going to do that, and he doesn't really care how it looks or what the score is. He just wants to get the win, and
doesn't care about next week. He doesn't care about down the road, doesn't care about anything, just running the ball.
Right. So, I mean, Cade didn't really rip the ball like you ripped the ball around like he did against State. So, I mean, so like I said, I feel somewhat confident because I know he could do it. But one thing that I do wonder of is what is this impact of this rotation with JJ? How is it potentially now affecting Cade's confidence? Because now we're getting into a situation, and me and you talked about this either on stream or off stream, that at one point you're like, look, if you're Cade's family and you're Cade, you're like, hold on a second. We're 8-1. We have a chance to win the Big Ten. I don't turn the ball over. We're starting to now pick up a little bit more offensively. Why do I start to look over my shoulder for this guy, for JJ?
And really, and when you think about the Michigan State game, that, and then following up to the Indiana game, I'm actually getting pulled more now. Like after I threw for 383, I'm actually getting pulled more now because JJ had multiple full series. Like, and granted, I know the game wasn't in question, in balance still, but like, I mean, but Cade still got put in after that.
the thing is, we all see the writing on the wall. I think we all know that no matter what happens, JJ McCarthy will be the starting quarterback for the University of Michigan unless he transfers next year. I think we all see the writing on the wall with that. It is like I don't care what Harbaugh says after this season, or we're going to have a competition. I don't care what he says on the spring. Yeah, I don't care what he says, unless JJ McCarthy transfers, right? He will be the starting quarterback for Michigan next fall. And fair or not to Cade McNamara. And to be quite honest, even though I think we all agree that JJ may have the highest ceiling, it's probably not fair to Cade, based on the way he's played this year up to this point. But it is what it is. And so I think he sees the writing on it. He might actually see the writing on the wall. And so, I actually think you're potentially now, the later we get into the season, create more of a this should be the point in time where your quarterback should have supreme confidence in his coaching style, confidence in him, right? Okay, we're 3 games left, we're 9 games deep into the season. This is my job, and that's it, right? You should maybe early in the season you can be a little iffy, maybe even halfway, but not this far deep. So now I don't have proof of this, but I do wonder about that. Like, does Cade have the full confidence he could have if it wasn't for this quarterback controversy? I do wonder about that. Like, does that make him a little gun shy in the game like this? Like, does he feel like, man, I can't throw a pick?
Right. Yeah. And that's not how you want a quarterback living out there.
Especially if you need him to be aggressive in a game like this, right? Like, I don't want him to feel, like if he does see that window, I want him to rip it. Don't worry about it. I don't want him. I don't want
him thinking. I just want him playing quarterback. That's
reacting. Right.
That's it. Yeah. I just think about that relationship between Josh Gaddis and Cade of, at this point in the season, like there should be at least a handful of plays that Josh Gaddis knows Cade is comfortable in and out, knows exactly where to go with the ball. No matter what kind of look or coverage or defense that we get, if we need to go down, march down the field. Like, I know I'm calling these 5 plays in this sequence because I know Cade, like he knows these well and he loves these plays. Like there should be that relationship there. And I'm not sure it's there. Obviously, I have no type of insight or anything like that, but to me, it seems like it would be a bit difficult to have that with the back and forth. Like, it's granted, it hasn't been I don't know. I just think there's better ways to handle it. And like I said, it just, because the unfortunate part is, like we talked about it early on this season, was you're getting JJ some experience and some reps. But if, let's say, Cade, let's say, for sake of discussion, Cade had an awful first half against Ohio State, right? You win Penn State, you win against Maryland, you get to Ohio State, Cade has an awful first half, let's say throws 2 picks, you're down 17-3, right? And you bring in JJ. Are you confident that JJ can throw the ball 30 times in that game and not make mistakes and win the game? Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, that maybe, like, some people are, but I don't think it's because of what you've seen from him consistently. It's from what just, the athleticism that we've seen and some of the throws that we've seen him make, but we've also seen him make mistakes. Like, so you know what I mean? I guess because of the odd way it was handled, like in really this kind of mid part of the season, like it didn't seem to have any real like rhyme or reason or like consistency of like, okay, Cade, you get 2 drives, JJ, you get 1. Like it's just kind of been sporadic. Like, all right, let's put JJ in for 2 plays. He hands the ball off twice. All right, Cade, go back in, throw the ball for 3rd down. Like, you know what I mean? It's just been, I don't love it. That's me personally, but
you gotta do drive. I think it's either you give them a full drive or you just or not. Because you don't want your starting quarterback coming in and on a 3rd and 8 or a typical passing down because the first 2 plays didn't work, right? And you don't want that, Because let's say he comes in and he throws a pick or he can't convert. I mean, you just don't want to create unnecessarily hurts the confidence when you don't have to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then vice versa, there's been times where JJ he's been in on drives and the first couple plays are kind of positive. He's there to pick up some yards and then you pull him out. Well, no, in those cases you want to keep him in, right? So it's like. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it creates a lot of, and I think what Jeff Brom does it. I think he's sub mid drive this year as well. But a lot of time because it's not the first year Jeff Brom has used multiple quarterbacks for Purdue. I think most time he does it though, because one guy, David Blau for the Lions, and I think some guy I remember his last name was
O'Connell.
No.
Oh, you're talking about when Blau was there?
Yeah, when Blau was there, and there was another quarterback, Sinclair. There was also there. I remember. In particular, like they were actually they were rotate drives, right? So I think that's a little bit more effective.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, the point is that I just don't like the way they go about it. And now in a game like this, I think Cade needs to be in there and you roll with him. Now, the interesting thing is that I don't think you need to worry about this being an issue next year, because I think one thing we know with Harbaugh is once he puts his confidence and all eggs in one basket with a quarterback and a young kid, he typically doesn't sway from them once they get going. And I'm bringing up Shea Patterson. And I think it's a similar situation in terms of this. I think next fall, in the next couple of years, J.J. McCarthy will be the starting quarterback for University of Michigan. And no matter what his play really is, unless he somehow becomes really, really bad, he will be the starting quarterback. Right? Can you remember with Shea Patterson? And I know this is a little bit off topic, but Sugar Shea, would go sometimes struggle with turnovers and stuff like that, not being a great leader at times. And Harbaugh backed him and backed him and never swayed from benching him. But some people didn't want Shea playing after a while, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't think for the sake of argument, I don't think this will be an issue going forward next year once JJ takes over, for the better or worse. But this year it will be, and we'll see what K is capable of. But I don't want to hear anything about injuries. Everyone's dealing with injuries this time of the year. You figure it out. You are the team, not Penn State, that has everything on the line, right? I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. You're done.
So as far as I think this is like a pick'em game, like essentially a toss up. And the interesting part, so like next thing we'd like to do is get into score prediction before we wrap. But I say that because I think about like the Nebraska game, like when, before like that Saturday that we wrapped up the week before Nebraska, I was like, man, this is going to be a cakewalk. Like you don't have anything to worry about, blah, blah, blah. And then Wednesday we had the call with Greg. And then, I think the spread was like 3 and right. And literally it was a 3-point game. So I guess I say that to say, what is your score prediction, knowing that it's a pick'em game, and does that sway you at all with your score prediction?
Not really, because in a pick'em I tend to always lean towards the home team anyway. So I think you can pretty much tell where I'm going with this. I'm not happy to say this. I just I don't know. Like, maybe I need to be on the couch right now because I'm psychologically because here's the thing. There's nothing more to be able to come on this, we do this post-game show and we're like, gosh, that's a huge win, right? Just got Maryland
at 3:30, no less, not at midnight.
And not at midnight when me and you are trying to keep our eyes open with toothpicks.
Oh man, that is way past my bedtime.
I know
that
it is
late.
I know it is, but to be on here and it's like, okay, gotta take care of Maryland, and it'll be hard not to get excited for two things for me: Thanksgiving, because I love to eat, and 2, Ohio State, right? Like it'll be hard not to you can't lose past Maryland, right? We've seen Ohio State almost lose at Maryland against Maryland right before Michigan, so you can't look past Maryland, baby TT. But my gosh, that will be awesome. So it's nothing more that I want than that scenario, but also I just also know how this could what can happen on Saturday, and
All right. What's your score prediction? Who's your winner?
You know what? The hell with it. Michigan, 35, Penn State 31.
Ooh, okay. 35-31. I mean, does that mean Cade is just dialed in and chopping them up, going for another 300?
Cade has his game, the game of his Michigan career. Maybe not in terms
better
of
than Michigan State.
Better than Michigan State, and maybe not necessarily in terms of pure statistics, but efficiency.
Okay, I can live with that. Yeah, I'm gonna go Michigan 35, Penn State 28. I think Michigan, and maybe I'm putting a lot of faith in Dax Hill, but I'm hoping that with Dax Hill back there at safety, that they'll be able to limit Jahan Dotson. I think he's that good that you're not going to stop him, but to be able to limit him, and I just think about the two defensive ends that you have with Aiden and Ojabo, who shout out to Corey. I don't know if he's on right now, but Corey had texted me that Mel Kiper just did his mock draft, and
I'm not shocked.
Ojabo is number 10 on his big board, which is impressive. Super impressive.
He should.
So
I mean, now I will say this real quick. I'm sorry to cut you off. Now the thing that, because I expected like Ojabo like to just shoot up the boards. I mean, his productivity, has been immense this season. Now the question I do have, and he has all the intangible, the measurables. By the way, he's 6'5", 260. So I mean, he's a beast. So, but my question, and I don't have the film breakdown, and I'm by no means am I some scout, is his production is it being based on the attention that Aiden gets, or is it his own like physical ability? You know what I'm trying to say? How much? I'm pretty sure the answer is there's some weight in both of those, but it will be interesting. Look, I'll take him in Detroit. Remember that scenario that I brought up? Sorry, the 15 seconds of our own personal Lions plug. I was willing to, use a future assets to trade back up and get Aiden because we're going to get, what's up?
Kayvon Thibodeau.
Thibodeau. Maybe Thibodeau and Ojabo. Maybe get him in the late first round. I don't know. But I know you said Mel got him in top 10, whatever. The point is, I know Ojabo deserves it. I mean, he's played well. But I do wonder about that.
I think, with most things, I think it's combo meal. If I had to weight them, I would probably say it's 60% attention Aiden gets and 40% Ojabo. And not that he wouldn't be good if Aiden didn't get as much attention, but I think part of it is just taking advantage of what he's getting. Like, you get one-on-one matchups, you got to take advantage of them. Like, there's plenty of guys who have worn the maize and blue who didn't take advantage of those things. We won't say any names, but Ojabo's doing a phenomenal job.
You talking about
and Michigan has a hellacious pass rush, and I just think I don't even know if Sean Clifford played last week. Did he play on Saturday? I think he did. But nonetheless, I mean, it's going to be a scary proposition, with 97 and 55, bearing down on you. And I think they have the pass rush to be able to limit that passing game, because I don't think Clifford's going to have, time to get back on a, 5 and 7 step drop to try to hit Dotson deep. So, I think it's probably like 60-40, but I say that in not trying to diss Ojabo in any way. He's an extremely talented player. And at the end of the day, that's how you make yourself millions, is by taking advantage of the opportunities that you get. So he's doing that, and he's about to be drafted top 10 if Kuiper's correct, and make millions of dollars when he signs his name on the dotted line. Well, so that'll be cool.
I think he's been more productive than Kwity Paye was. And that's no diss towards Kwity Paye. Kwity Paye won the first round last year. And I'm not saying Kwity Paye wasn't productive for Michigan, but like we talked about it all last year. We're like, man, Kwity Paye's being mocked in a in the early for like top 10. You know, at one point he was like top 7 in the draft last
Yeah,
year.
but Quiddy had missed some games though. He didn't play in every game.
No,
last
I
year.
know, but I just like I never saw like I feel like Ajabo makes a play every game. You know,
I got you.
Like
Yeah.
it's a sack or strip sack or pressure. Like there were some games even when Quiddy Pay would be out there, I'm like, I don't really see it. I think he's a good player, but you know, like he's not jumping off the screen. There are times Ajabo really jumps off the screen with plays, you know. So
kind of like Rashawn Gary.
Now you gotta feed your family, right? You gotta feed your family, right? By the way, that's from the Amazon
special.
Prize. You know, Rashawn Gary was roughing it on the sideline, trying to hype up his teammates like he's some kind of leader. And
he's playing well for Green Bay though, so that's good. He's representing.
Yes. That dude would not get re-signed. He will not get past his 5th-year option. Bucket. Not saying he won't get another opportunity somewhere else, but please, bust. Anyway,
potential.
Oh, that's all. You know what? That's what we're good for at Michigan, right? A lot of potential, a lot of hype, but substance.
So, Dre, you've got 35-31 Michigan winning. I've got 35-28 Michigan winning. I saw a couple scores of 35-17, so just a dominant performance. If, let's say, Michigan comes out of the game, and let's say it is a 35-17 game, are you going to feel better about the Ohio State game, or is it not really? Is it a week-to-week thing to where you need to see how they look against Maryland and go from there?
It's week to week, and to be honest, man, like at this point, like either way, I'm going to be concerned about Ohio State. One, because of the recent history, and two, because of just what they do well versus what we do, what we do well. So I mean, like either way, like I can't see. I'll put it this way: I can't see a scenario like 2018 when I'm going into the Ohio State game. Basically like Icarus flying towards the sun, and I'm like, I want everything. We are flying away. And all of a sudden, my wings, fall off. Like I don't see it like that. I'll never probably be like that again. But no, I mean, I still give us, a puncher's chance for Ohio State this week, next week, and that's pretty much what it's going to be. It's not going to get past that.
Okay, it'll be interesting. So you'll be cautious no matter what, which I think that's probably a good space.
I think it's a responsible thing to do. No, but
you think that now. You didn't think that 3 years ago.
I didn't. Like I was talking. I was talking real dangerous 3 years ago. I mean, I'm over here talking about I wanted Alabama. Like I'm like, bring on Bama. I don't think I've ever been that like excited as a Michigan fan where I felt the joy in my heart. Like I literally felt that like maize and blue was pumping through my veins, and like I saw that shiny trophy, the Dr. Pepper trophy. I saw everything, and nothing. I wanted everything. Like I felt like this is it, and this is how I know how happy I was. And guys, this is what Desmond says to me. We're on the phone, and he says, he's like, man, I can hear the joy in your voice. Like I can just hear the joy in your voice, and that I was. So all these people are like, you're so negative. Like, no, like I love University of Michigan, and by all means, I've had my slappy moments, and I've been literally slapped in the face for it. Hey, it is what it is.
The things that were trending before that game though were like very positive. Ohio State had just had a near loss. Like if a quarterback doesn't one hop a wide open 2-point conversion play, Ohio State loses that game. Michigan came off of an Indiana win. I can't remember who you played, but kicked their butts. At that point, you were 10-1 going into that game and looking really good, and they were struggling and limping into the game. So I can understand why you were very excited about that game. And then but once again, like you just said, it's up to the players, like not the fans. Like we can be excited and is dialed in as we want to be. That doesn't matter. It matters how guys come out and play football on Saturdays that are in maize and blue.
At some point, and it will. I mean, at some point, Michigan will beat Ohio State. I mean, like it's just the the natural order of, the natural balancing and things at some point have some kind of pendulum swing, right? It will happen. I don't know when, but it will.
This could be it, man.
It could be it. But it's just like when the series has been this much so heavily favored towards one team, you'll be a fool to like go into the game like, oh yeah, this is the year, like I mean, maybe, and it's just part of it. And it's like I said, it's up to the team to change that for the fans. It's up to the team to instill true confidence. Like, oh no, we've done it. We can do this, right? We can do this. We've done it. Dude, like the last time we beat Ohio State was in 2012, where it was literally like that's barely a real season, right?
That was Luke Fickell, right?
That was Luke Fickell, right? That was Luke Fickell, and they lost Terrell Pryor, and really, I thought it was like a BS allegation anyway. I think he cited some memorabilia or sold some memorabilia or whatever it was. But anyway, like it happened, and look, we still got the game. I was still happy, but other than that, like we just haven't got off the mat against those guys. No matter with our best teams or our worst teams over the last 15 years. So it just is what it is.
That is true. Well, I think that is it, man. You got anything else you wanna add before we wrap up?
No, but just everyone enjoyed tonight. Thank you. We look forward to 3:30 on Saturday, be able to hopefully have a great conversation. Because if Michigan does not win, that's going to be a very, for me, I'm gonna give you guys I'm gonna already let you guys know I'm not gonna be like really upset, but I'm not gonna have a lot of positive spin, because at that point now we're talking about goals really no longer being in front of us. Like, this is it. This is where it really hurts, because if you lose, it's over. In terms of if you wanted to really win something of merit this year, win a Big Ten title, etc. So, hey, gotta have
Let's keep
it.
our fingers crossed that you don't have to do that. So
yeah, and we're picking for it not to happen. So, hey, take care of business, and we'll see you guys Saturday.
All right, sounds good, man. Peace.
Peace.